Today we are diving a little bit deeper into the coordinate plane. We are going to look at all the different parts, identify ordered pairs, plot ordered pairs, describe how we get there, and then end with some reflecting. So if we look at the coordinate plane, a coordinate plane is just the intersection of two number lines. We have a horizontal number line. That is our x-axis. So you can see the 0, the positives, the negatives. Then we have a vertical number line, which is our y-axis, with our positives and our negatives. And so where those number lines meet, that is our origin. The origin is at 0, 0. That is the point for the origin. And then we have that the number lines separate the coordinate plane into 4 different regions. Those are called quadrants. So we have quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. So everything up here in quadrant 1 is going to be positive. This is what you're first introduced to in the coordinate plane. Over here, your x coordinate is negative, but your y coordinate is positive. Everything in quadrant 3 is negative. You're to the left of 0, you're below 0. And then down here, everything is to the right of 0, but then you're below 0. So positive, negative. Okay, and then we know that we use ordered pairs to locate the points on the coordinate plane. And remember, it is x coordinate, then y coordinate. So over first, then up or down. Over, then up or down. So if we look over at this graph in example 1, the question is, what is the ordered pair that corresponds to point T? So if we look for point T, right here, we look at how far over it goes. It goes over to 3, and then it goes down to negative 3. So we would say 3, negative 3. And when you write your ordered pairs, make sure you separate them with a comma, and you do have to enclose them in parentheses. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and pause your video and do 1, 2, 3, and 4. Just like I did up here with point T, you're going to do the next 4. All right, go ahead and check those ordered pairs here. All right, then flip this over. Now we're going to do some plotting of ordered pairs. So we're going to plot a point, and then we're going to describe the location. We're going to describe how we get there. Okay, so we're going to use this coordinate plane over here. Since it's not numbered, we're just going to assume that every line segment represents 1. So we have negative 2, 3 for our first one. So we're going to just describe how we get there. So we always start at the origin. So I'm going to make that note out to the side. Start at the origin. So that's every time we start at 0, 0, start at the origin. And here, we're going to just describe how we get to this point. We move 2 units left, okay, because it's negative 2, and 3 units up. Okay, so now we're going to do that. Start at the origin, 2 units left, 3 units up. And that's negative 2, 3. Okay. Now let's also, when it says describe the location of each point, we're also going to say which quadrant we ended up in. So here, if you need to label, this is quadrant 1. 2, 3, and 4. So this one ended up in quadrant 2. So I'm also going to add that here, quadrant 2. Now I want you to pause and try this for the next ones. So 6, 0, negative 3.5. So we're always starting at the origin. But for this one, you're going to have to move down. So you don't move left or right because it's at 0, but you're going to move 3.5 units down. Plot your point, and it will end up on an axis. You just tell me which one. So go ahead and pause and see if you can try those 3 on your own. Same process we just did here. All right, so there was this move 3.5 units down. We end up on the y-axis. For 3, -1, I moved 3 units right, 1 unit down, and I was in quadrant 4. And then -5, 0, I moved 5 units left, and I was on the x-axis. All right, now we're going to look at reflecting. So when we reflect, you think about a reflection when you look in the mirror, your reflection. So it's very similar, but we're going to do this with ordered pairs. It would be like if this ordered pair, this coordinate plane looked in the mirror, what they would see, what that reflection would be. So we can reflect in the x-axis. When we do that, we use the same x-coordinate and the opposite of the y. Okay, so same x-coordinate, opposite y. If we reflect in the y-axis, we use the same y-coordinate and opposite of the x. So whatever you're being asked to reflect in, you keep that coordinate the same. So let's go ahead and try this. So this one says reflect -2, 4 in the x-axis. Okay, so this one we're going x-axis. So that means if we're reflecting in the x-axis, we want the same x-coordinate, but opposite y. Same x, opposite y. So that means if I keep this the same, I'm going to take the opposite of this. So let's go ahead and graph the -2, 4. So here's my -2, 4. So now to reflect in the x-axis, again, it says to keep the same x opposite y. Well, that means I'm going to keep -2, the opposite of 4. Okay, so now if we graph that, -2, but down to -4. So now you can see what happened. We reflected in the x-axis, which means it flipped over the x. So we can see that visually as well. So a lot of times when you're reflecting, you can see where it's going to end up, but you can also reflect without even graphing it by using this procedure. So let's look at the next one. Reflect -3, -1 in the y-axis. Okay, so this time since we're reflecting in the y-axis, we're going to keep the same y and opposite x. Okay, so let's go ahead and graph this point. This is -3, -1. So I'm going to go -3, -1. Okay, then if you think about it, if we're reflecting in the y-axis, it's going to go over the y-axis this way. But we could also go up here and think, okay, I want the opposite x. So instead of -3, I want a +3, but I'm going to keep that same y. So I'm at 3, -1. So it flipped over that y-axis. Okay, go ahead and flip this over. Now we're going to combine those and work through both. Okay, so this says to reflect 2, 1 in the x-axis followed by the y. So we're going to reflect it over the x, then take that new point and reflect it over the y. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through the steps here. Okay, so we're going to have a few different steps. So step 1, we're going to just plot our original point, 2, 1. Okay. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to plot over 2, up 1. I'm going to plot that point, 2, 1. Okay. Now, the next step, we're going to reflect it in the x-axis. So next, it asks us to reflect in the x-axis. So I'm going to take that original point, 2, 1, and reflect it in the x-axis. Okay, so that means I keep the same x opposite y. So same x, that means I'm going to have 2, the opposite y, -1. Okay, so now if I graph that over 2 down to -1, okay. Okay, and then lastly, we're going to go in the y-axis. So step 3. Okay, we're going to take that new point, not our old one, but we're going to take that new point now and go over the y-axis. Okay, so now we want to opposite y, but opposite x, same y. Okay, so it should go over the y-axis, our new point here, -2, -1. Okay, so taking a look at what we did, here was our original point. We flipped over the x-axis, then took that and flipped over the y-axis.